I'm an enigma, but I have an alpha husband, an alpha who's fierce and frigid. It wasn't until I awakened that I learned the truth. I'm just cannon fodder, the villain of the story, and he has an Omega he's loved forever. I'd have to be insane to spend the rest of my life with a stubborn, bull-headed alpha like that. So I decisively dumped him and headed to a club to flirt with some cute Omegas. But that very night, the alpha caught me and pinned me against his 8-pack abs. His usually terse, sharp tongue was suddenly spewing a storm of filthy words. Aren't you an enigma? How come you're wet from a single touch? Answer me. Shut his mouth. Someone shut his mouth. Chapter 1. Lucius, my heat is starting. Give me a kiss. Get lost. Just one smack tusk. He hit me again. This was the 4th time. The first time I could understand we didn't know each other well. The second time I told myself he was just shy. The third time, fine, 3 strikes and you're out. I endured it. But this was the 4th time. If I have to take another inhibitor shot tonight, I'm no enigma. With that thought, I pushed my tongue against the inside of my cheek, my gaze landing dangerously on Lucius Sterling's outrageously beautiful face. He's my husband. What's wrong with marking him? Lucius. The moment he looked up, I lunged, aiming to bite the gland on the side of his neck. I barely caught a whiff of sandalwood before I was kicked hard, sent sprawling to the floor. Even my ribs ached. Wyatt, are you a dog? Lucius cursed, his right foot pressing down unceremoniously on the half of my face he'd just slapped. From this angle I could see his long, straight legs and the tight, firm curve of his ass beneath his suit trousers. Perhaps my gaze was too blunt, too naked, because the pressure of his foot on my face increased. The cold touch of his leather sole mixed with the pain, a constant stimulation to my nerves. It was exhilarating, hot and thrilling. He was the man I loved, after all. I licked my lips, the tip of my red tongue tracing a suggestive line across the top of his shoe, leaving a slick sheen. Mr. Sterling, you're so hard right here, I panted suggestively, my voice husky and seductive. So what if Lucius Sterling was frigid? Even he couldn't resist the temptation of 100% compatibility match. Sure enough, Lucius's Adam's apple bobbed, his pupils losing focus for a split second. But he quickly recovered, squatting down, grabbing my chin and slapping me again. He wasn't human, and he certainly didn't treat me like one. Lucius seemed utterly furious. This time, even his retreating back was trembling with a mix of rage and panic, as if fleeing from some terrifying beast. Thinking about it, it wasn't a total failure. Being able to piss Lucius off this much was progress, I suppose. Chapter 2. I struggled up from the floor, both my cheeks burning. They were probably swollen beyond recognition. But a small injury like this was nothing to me. Lucius had done worse. Truthfully, as long as he didn't permanently cripple me, I'd do anything he wanted. After tidying up, I expertly piled Lucius's clothes into a heap. While burrowing into them, I video-called my best friend, Leo Shaw. Son, I think your dad might not be an enigma after all. How else can you explain me not being able to beat a single alpha? I grumbled, huddled under one of his dress shirts as I administered an inhibitor shot to my thigh. A minute later, the burning heat in my body finally began to subside. Got put in your place by your man again. Tusk, I told you when you were chasing him, a cold beauty like that is hard to handle, especially when he's an alpha. Think about it, in our society, what normal alpha would be willing to get marked? I knew he was right. But I didn't want him to be. I really liked Lucius. It was lust at first sight. Otherwise, I wouldn't have offered to marry an alpha like him when I heard the Sterling Corporation was on the verge of bankruptcy. It was a shame. I'd spent $100 million to pay off his debts, and I still hadn't even held his hand. Don't even mention it. He always hits me. This time was worse. He used his foot. Stomped my face right into a balloon, I said, pointing the camera at my face, showing off my battle scars to my friend with a pitiful expression. Tusk, Tusk, Tusk. Wyatt, my man, I don't mean to lecture you, but you're an enigma for crying out loud. How are you the one getting abused all the time? I say you should just force yourself on him. Once the deed is done, what's he gonna do? Disown you? I inhaled the lingering scent of Lucius on his clothes, calming myself before answering. I want to, but he's too strong. I can't beat him. Get out of here. An enigma can't beat an alpha. Stop pretending. I think you just can't bear to hurt him. Maybe, I mumbled, letting the topic drop. He was right. I couldn't bear to. Every time I'd just test the waters with a little flirtation, and then I'd get beaten up. If I ever got serious, Lucius wouldn't necessarily come out on top. But I was still a little scared that if I tore away this fragile piece, I wouldn't even have this kind of interaction with him anymore. All right, I'm not gonna drag this out. My guy's coming home. You take it easy, don't get yourself in too deep. If it really doesn't work out, just get a divorce. You're the young master of the Payne family. You can have anyone you want. I know, bye. After hanging up, I was about to toss my phone aside when an alert popped up from my tracking app. Warning, warning, target has entered a dangerous area. Please take action immediately. Chapter 3. What the hell? He rejects me 1 minute, then heads to a club the next, and a club of that kind where anything goes. All my playful thoughts vanished in an instant. I scrambled out of the pile of Lucius's clothes, threw on a jacket without bothering to change, and rushed out the door. As I sped down the road, I couldn't help but remember the first time I met Lucius. It was also in a club. Back then, Lucius wasn't the revered Mr. Sterling everyone feared. He was just a down-on-his-luck heir who had just taken over his family's business, only to be crushed by rivals from all sides. That night, an alpha had groped his ass, and Lucius had smashed a bottle over the guy's head, leaving him bleeding. The kind of people who frequented that club all had some power, so the result was predictable. Lucius was pinned down by a dozen high-level alphas, looking utterly wretched. I just happened to be passing by. One look at his stunningly beautiful, cold face, and my heart went out to him. Or rather, my lust flared up. I released my Enigma pheromones, instantly suppressing every alpha in the room, and saved Lucius. Then, while he was disoriented, I stole a kiss. The first time I kissed him, his whole body went rigid, his eyes as cold as ice, like he wanted to eat me alive. But he was just too beautiful, and his scent was intoxicating, so I couldn't resist and kissed him a few more times. In the end, Lucius sent me flying with a swift kick. I clutched my stomach, groaning in pain, but I was still grinning foolishly at him. I knew right then and there that I was done for. Later, I found out the Sterling Corporation was facing bankruptcy, so I took the initiative and contacted Lucius, proposing a business marriage. My condition was that I would clear all his debts, and in return, he would marry me and unconditionally cooperate with me during my heats. Lucius agreed, but clearly, he hadn't fully kept his end of the bargain. "Heh, so much for unconditional cooperation," I sneered, pressing the accelerator harder. The car shot forward like an arrow released from a bow, speeding through the night. "Lucius Sterling, you'd better not be doing anything to betray me. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what I might do." Chapter 4. The club was a kaleidoscope of flashing lights and deafening music. The air was thick with a chaotic and stimulating mix of alpha and omega pheromones. I wrinkled my nose, covering it with my hand as I pushed through the crowd, searching for Lucius. The tracking app showed he was in a private room on the second floor. As I reached the top of the stairs, I heard a wave of flirty laughter coming from the room. The door wasn't fully closed, so I could easily see inside. In the private room, Lucius was still wearing the same well-tailored black suit from earlier in the day, though his tie was loosened and a few buttons on his shirt were undone. He sat on the sofa, legs crossed, his posture lazy and noble, as if he were at some high-class auction. If it weren't for the beautiful young man draped over his lap, my hand gripping the doorframe made a cracking sound. I wanted to storm in right then and there, but I also desperately needed to know if Lucius really only liked Omegas. My gaze finally tore away from Lucius's face and landed on the Omega. He was undeniably beautiful, his entire body exuding an alluring scent. Not a single alpha nearby could escape it. They had all entered their ruts, except for Lucius. Sigh. I was just scaring myself. I'd forgotten Lucius was frigid. I don't know what the Omega did while massaging his leg, but Lucius suddenly grabbed the boy's hair, yanked it back, and let out a soft tusk. "I have a husband." A jolt of joy went through my heart. But before I could even celebrate, a flood of memories that weren't my own poured into my mind. That's when I learned that the world I was living in was actually a novel, and I was just a cannon fodder villain who used his family's power to force the male lead to marry him. Lucius was that male lead, and the Omega on his lap was the universally adored protagonist, Julian Nash. In the book, I was madly obsessed with Lucius, harassing him in every way possible, even resorting to force. Lucius was utterly disgusted with me, not only keeping a string of lovers on the side, but also engaging in a deeply angsty, passionate romance with the main character, Julian. In the end, I was betrayed by everyone, my family was ruined, and Lucius and Julian worked together to have me committed to a psychiatric hospital, where I was brutally killed by a pack of alphas on a cold hospital bed. Meanwhile, Lucius and Julian overcame all obstacles and lived happily ever after. After processing all this information, I went completely numb. I'd always felt that my relationship with Lucius was strange, and now I finally knew why. So I was just a fucking plot device. Thinking about my fate in the book made me shudder. Damn it, no way, absolutely not. The old Wyatt who was madly obsessed with Lucius may be dead. but the new me is an enlightened youth of the new era. Wyatt Payne. I'm not going to give up an entire forest for a single tree, and I'm definitely not going to let myself become so pathetic for someone who doesn't love me back. See. My husband's here. Lucius had noticed me at some point. He lazily raised an eyebrow, his tone unreadable. Calling me his husband now won't work either. Having figured everything out, I took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and walked in with a smile. Chapter 5. Seeing me, the expressions on everyone's faces soured. After all, Wyatt Payne had quite the reputation in their circles. An enigma and the young master of the Payne family, known for being arrogant, domineering, and tyrannical. Most importantly, extremely jealous, unable to tolerate anyone getting close to Lucius. I had a history of publicly humiliating Lucius's pursuers. They were probably all cursing me under their breath for ruining their fun, but what did it matter? I wasn't the old Wyatt anymore. I completely ignored their glares, walked straight up to Lucius, and looked at him with a wide grin. "Mr. Sterling, having a good time? Why didn't you invite me to play?" Lucius raised an eyebrow, seemingly surprised by my reaction. "What, am I not welcome?" I didn't wait for his answer, instead wrapping an arm around the waist of a nearby Omega and plopping down, legs spread wide. I even gave the Omega's waist a deliberate squeeze, earning a shy glance. The action and tone were that of a perfect playboy. Sure enough, Lucius's face instantly darkened, his eyes sharpening as he stared at me. I feigned surprise. "You can't be serious, Mr. Sterling. Are you really that petty? You've already got a little O of your own. You want the one in my arms too. That's just greedy." As I spoke, I leaned my head on the Omega's shoulder, my tone suggestive. "Sweetheart, don't you think Mr. Sterling really wishes I hadn't come?" The Omega, flustered by my pheromones, went red in the face and melted into my embrace, cooing softly, "Of course not. How could anyone not like you, Mr. Payne?" I smiled with satisfaction and looked up at Lucius, my eyes challenging. Lucius's face was as black as thunder. The knuckles of the hand holding his glass were white. He was clearly fighting for control. I knew he was angry, extremely angry. I refused to believe he could remain indifferent to this. I was going to show him that I was done serving him. This marriage could go to hell for all I cared. Lucius finally spoke, his voice low and icy. "Wyatt, that's enough. He wants me to stop. I'm not a dog." "I'll do the opposite." I turned and planted a loud kiss on the Omega's cheek. Then I ran for it. I didn't even hear the sound of Lucius smashing his glass behind me. Chapter 6. Out of the club, I gulped down the fresh air. I had to admit, in just 3 short years, Lucius's pheromones had become incredibly powerful. Powerful enough to make me feel oppressed, to easily dominate me. Before, I never cared. I even enjoyed the feeling of being suppressed by him. But now I just wanted to get as far away from him as possible. To hell with the male lead. Whoever wants him can have him. I'm done. With that thought, I sped back to the villa and ransacked it for anything valuable. To pay off Lucius's debt, I had sold off most of the assets my family had given me. I was just taking back a few valuables now, which was perfectly reasonable. Even if Lucius found out, he couldn't say a thing. While packing, I sent a message to Leo, asking him to help me find a new place. "Son, your dad's moving out. Find me a nice apartment in a good neighborhood with top-notch security, preferably as far away from that bastard Lucius as possible." "No way, Wyatt, are you serious? You're really divorcing Lucius? What about the Sterling Corporation? Let it burn. I don't care what happens to it. It has nothing to do with me." "Tusk, you say that so casually. Fine, I'll find you a place. But think it through. Lucius isn't someone you want to mess with. Don't worry, I'm not that love-struck fool anymore. If he dares to come looking for trouble, what I'd do, I hadn't figured that out yet. After all, that bastard Lucius was genuinely strong, but I'd cross that bridge when I came to it. After packing, I sent Lucius a text. "Mr. Sterling, let's part on good terms. I've already drafted the divorce papers. My lawyer will deliver them to the Sterling Corporation tomorrow. Please remember to sign." After sending the message, I turned off my phone, snapped the SIM card, threw it in the toilet, and walked out of the villa without a backward glance. As for how Lucius would react, I couldn't care less. Because from now on, I was going to live for myself. I was going to find my own happiness. I was going to roam the world and experience all the wonderful things life had to offer. I was going to, I admit, I was a little scared. I decided to find a place to hide first and wait for things to blow over. After all, if it came to a fight with the current Lucius, I would definitely lose. Chapter 7. 2 months passed and there was not a peep from the Sterling Corporation. All the better I was happy to be left alone when Leo walked in. I was in the middle of beating the hell out of a life-sized Lucius body pillow. I had it custom made back when I was desperate to mark him, a one-to-one replica of his body and face. I figured if I couldn't mark the real thing, marking a pillow was the next best thing. Lucius found it and nearly beat me to death. Now, with Lucius gone, the pillow was my perfect punching bag. "Wyatt, my man, you've been gone for 2 months. How are you still so hung up on Lucius?" Leo said, grabbing an apple from the fruit bowl and taking a crunchy bite. "Who's hung up on him?" "I'm venting, you understand." I shot him a glare and went back to punching and kicking the pillow. Fine, you're venting, he added casually. "Let's see if you still say that when you're cuddling it to sleep tonight." He hit a nerve. I collapsed onto the floor and burst into tears. "Why? I'm so amazing, so kind, there's no one better than me in the whole world. Why did Lucius choose him?" Leo, looking like he finally couldn't take it anymore, raised an eyebrow and pulled me up from the floor. "All right, stop wailing. Your bro is going to help you out one last time." "I've got your back." Chapter 8. "This is your brilliant idea?" I asked, my mouth twitching as I stared at the luxuriously decorated high-end club before me. Of course, this is the most exclusive club in the city. They've got every kind of Omega you could want. I guarantee you'll be satisfied. Leo puffed out his chest, a leave-it-to-me expression on his face. Lucius will kill me if he finds out. After all, I had checked a few days ago, and we were still legally married. This was called cheating. Smacky smacked me on the back of the head. "Wyatt, are you insane? Lucius can find an Omega, so why can't you? Don't you remember why you ran away from home in the first place?" Damn it, I felt like I'd awakened all over again. He was right. Why would I want that hard, stubborn alpha when I could have a soft, fragrant Omega? Besides, Lucius was busy playing out his 300-chapter drama with Julian. I'd have to have shit for brains to choose him. Let's go, Chapter 9. You really can't beat Omegas, so fragrant, so soft, and so obedient. Just as I picked one with the highest compatibility match, planning to have a good long drink with him, the Omega stared at me for a few moments. The look in his eyes was strange, like he was trying to confirm something, but was also uncertain. A few minutes later, he pointed at me, his face lighting up with realization. "Oh, I remember, you're that wanted criminal. You're the wanted criminal. Your whole family are wanted criminals. If this had been an alpha, I would have decked him. But he was an Omega, so I had to be nice." Seeing my "are you crazy" expression, the Omega thoughtfully ran out and came back with a wanted poster. That's right, a wanted poster, the kind that had just been torn off a wall. My picture was printed clearly on it, and below it was a long list of my supposed crimes. Drunk driving, harassing Omegas, unlawful imprisonment, assault, and even one that said molesting alphas, 70 of them. Is Lucius insane? Why didn't he just say I'd raped every alpha in the universe and who approved this poster? "I'm going to sue for defamation." The most ridiculous part was the reward amount on the poster. $100 million, $100 million. I stared at the poster, my eyes turning red. If I turned myself in, wouldn't I be rich? Mister. "Payne, are you really a wanted criminal?" the little Omega stammered, trembling like a leaf. I grabbed his hand, overcome with excitement. "Yes, I'm that wanted criminal. Quick, report me, and then we'll take the $100 million and run away together, the Omega." I thought my proposal was brilliant. I could get away from Lucius, get the money, and get the guy. It was killing 3 birds with 1 stone. What do you think, sweetheart? Isn't my idea just perfect? I looked at the Omega expectantly, waiting for his answer. However, the Omega just stared at me like I was an idiot. Then he dialed the tip line. What a twist, how heartless. Even more heartless was Leo's sycophantic, ass-kissing face. "Yes, Mr. Sterling, I brought Wyatt here. About that reward money, yes, of course, no trouble at all. We can talk more when you get here." The call ended, and Leo's expression instantly reverted to its usual lazy nonchalance. "Sorry, buddy. You shouldn't have pissed off Lucius Sterling," he said, patting my shoulder with a you're-on-your-own look. "Damn it, Leo, are you even human? You sold me out for $100 million. $100 million. No, $200 million. Leo held up 2 fingers and waggled them in front of my face. "Lucius said he'd add another $100 million if I brought you to him personally. Well, thanks a whole lot." Just then, the tracking app on my still-active phone sent out an alert. My heart leaped into my throat and I bolted, but I had only just reached the door when I slammed into a hard chest. The familiar scent of sandalwood instantly enveloped me. It was Lucius. How did he get here so fast? I looked up and met Lucius's deep eyes. His usually dark pupils were tinged with a frightening crimson. "Run, why did you stop running?" he asked. One arm wrapped around my waist, the other gripped my chin, forcing me to look at him. "Lucius, let me explain. Fine. I'll give you a chance to explain, Lucius said, his tone terrifyingly calm. Tell me, why did you run away, why the divorce, and why were you messing around with another Omega? As he spoke the last few words, Lucius's tone grew heavy, thick with anger and hurt. I must be going crazy to think Lucius Sterling could sound hurt. I stammered for a moment, unable to speak, before Lucius hoisted me over his shoulder. "Ah, Lucius, what are you doing? Put me down," I cried out, pounding on his back. He acted as if he didn't hear me, striding out of the club. "Lucius, you bastard, let me go. MMPH, MMPH. He then gave my ass 2 light smacks. It was actually kind of nice, just a little humiliating. I shut up. Chapter 10. Swoosh, the shower head blasted water and the icy spray made me shiver. I struggled to stand, but Lucius held me down in the tub, scrubbing me from head to toe like he was washing a dog. He was especially rough on my waist, where the Omega had touched me, scrubbing so hard he nearly took off a layer of skin. "Lucius, are you sick? It's just a shower. Why are you scrubbing so hard?" I glared up at him. The bathroom light was bright, illuminating him completely. His beautiful face was cold as ice, but still captivating. My eyes traveled down from his collarbone to the full, faintly visible muscles of his chest. I swallowed hard. "Lucius, how about we stop fighting? Just let me bite you. If I'm going to die, I might as well die satisfied. I can just kill myself when the plot reaches that point." Lucius remained silent, continuing to wash my body. He scrubbed me until I was wide awake and my entire body was on fire, so I attacked his chest. Soft, springy, hee-hee, worth it even if he beats me to death. Lucius raised his hand. I instinctively turned my face up to meet the blow, but instead, a jolt went through my ass. This forward. I stared at Lucius in shock. His eyes were dark and still, but his scent instantly overwhelmed all my senses. Unlike the restraint and tolerance of before, this time, Lucius's pheromones were released without any inhibition. Intense, domineering, with an aggression that permitted no refusal. By the time Lucius lifted me from the water, my own orange soda scent filled the entire room. It was too much. An alpha, indeed. My legs were weak, I couldn't even stand and could only lean against him, panting. "Lucius, rein it in a little, or I won't be able to mark you." Lucius's eyes darkened, his lips pressing into a thin line. "You don't need to." Before I could react, I was thrown onto the soft, large bed. A moment later, Lucius's tall frame covered mine, pinning me down securely. "Lucius, you." Lucius's mouth silenced mine, kissing me relentlessly. I don't know how long he kissed me, but he was very, very good at it. I was about to drown in that tenderness, but soon I realized something was wrong. "Lucius, where the hell do you think you're putting your mouth?" Lucius kept biting. I panicked. I'm the enigma. Not only did his mouth not stop, but his hands didn't either. And to make matters worse, my pheromones couldn't suppress his. Combined with all of Lucius's previous actions, even a love-struck fool like me would have figured it out by now. Lucius might not be an alpha at all. This was not okay. How could my sweet, pretty husband turn into a dominant top? I desperately tried to flip him over, but my waist suddenly went weak, and I collapsed onto Lucius's abs, refusing to move. It was too humiliating. Lucius let out a low chuckle, rubbing my cheek with his hand. His fingers came away glistening. His usually terse, sharp tongue was suddenly spewing a storm of filthy words. "Aren't you an enigma? How come you're wet from a single touch? Answer me." Shut his mouth. Someone shut his mouth. The 100% pheromone match was infinitely amplified in this moment. I began to tremble violently. It wasn't like a heat. It was more like absolute submission, an undeniable absolute suppression written into my very genes. "Don't you want to mark me?" I asked, trembling. "Can we start now?" Lucius's lips curved into an even more tempting smile. "Don't be hasty," he said, cupping my face with his beautiful hands, forcing me to look into his eyes. "Marking is for life. We have to go through the proper steps." With that, Lucius lowered his head and kissed my lips. Let's make love first. Chapter 11, A Night of Debauchery. When I woke up, my whole body felt like it had been run over by a truck. A certain part of me in particular felt overused, sore, and swollen. I turned my head to look at Lucius beside me. He was still fast asleep, his long eyelashes casting shadows on his cheeks, looking quiet and well-behaved, a stark contrast to his usual self. Lucius's beauty was truly a crime. For that face alone, I could almost forgive him for anything, even for forcibly marking me. But why did he have to be someone else's male lead? At that thought, I resentfully bit his smooth back, leaving a clear set of teeth marks. "Wyatt, are you a dog?" Lucius woke with a pained hiss, his voice raspy from sleep. "Yeah, I am a dog. What about it?" I retorted, feeling righteous enough to bite him again. Lucius grabbed my hand and flipped me over, pinning me underneath him. It seems I wasn't thorough enough last night if you still have the energy to bite people." As he spoke, his lips descended, his kisses carrying a punishing edge as he sucked and nibbled. I was kissed until my head spun, almost dragged back into last night's madness. "Wait," I pushed him away forcefully, panting. "Lucius, what are you?" "What's your dynamic?" Lucius raised an eyebrow. "Didn't you figure that out last night? So you knew you were an enigma all along?" "Yes." "Then why didn't you tell me? If I told you, would you still have married me to pay off my debts?" I was speechless. "Probably not, at least I would have hesitated. After all, just as Leo said, in this society, what alpha would be willing to be marked, let alone a top-tier enigma? Now it's your turn to tell me. Why did you suddenly leave? And why did you want a divorce?" I guiltily looked away, unable to meet his gaze. I just felt we weren't a good match. I didn't want to continue." "Not a good match," Lucius sneered. 100% pheromone match is what you call not a good match. Or are you saying we're not compatible in bed?" "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" "Was it because of that Omega?" Lucius suddenly mentioned Julian, his tone turning icy. "What did he say to you?" I jerked my head up to look at him. "He didn't say anything to me. It was me." "You what? You saw us together, so you got jealous." "I wasn't jealous, I just found out about the plot and didn't want to be cannon fodder anymore." "But how could I possibly say that to Lucius? He'd think I was insane." "Just what?" "I just think you and he are a better match," I mumbled like a mosquito. "I don't want to be the third wheel." "Third wheel? Wyatt, are you out of your mind?" "I have nothing to do with him. You are my legal spouse." Lucius frowned, looking at me as if I were a lunatic. "But you're the main couple, the male light, and his love you're destined for each other. I'm just cannon fodder, the villain, the cannon fodder villain who gets killed by you two working together." The more I spoke, the more agitated I became, tears streaming down my face against my will. "I don't want to die. I don't want to be locked in a mental hospital. I don't want to be by a pack of alphas. Why, I couldn't say the rest. I was crying even harder than last time. Lucius stared at me, silent for a long time, before asking uncertainly, "Last time, did I accidentally step on your head too hard?" I blinked, trying to find a hint of a joke on his face, but he was completely serious. "Wyatt, I'm taking you to a doctor. I'm not sick. You must be. Otherwise, why would you be saying these things? Why would you want to divorce me?" As expected, my protests were useless. It made sense. In Lucius's eyes, the person who had loved him so much and followed his every whim had suddenly gone crazy, started flirting with other Omegas, and was now demanding a divorce. Anyone would think he'd lost his mind. Chapter 12. Without another word, Lucius took me to the hospital. After a full checkup, the doctor said I was physically healthy, but my mind was a little off. When asked for the cause, he said that prolonged periods of my heat being unsoothed by a partner had led to mental confusion. "The brain is a delicate thing. You have to take good care of it, or problems can easily arise," the doctor said sagely, taking a sip of strong tea and spitting out a leaf. I was speechless. "Doctor, is there any hope for his condition?" Lucius asked with a straight face. "Well, that depends on the specific situation. But generally speaking, as long as he's properly nurtured with his partner's pheromones, there's a good chance of recovery." "Okay, thank you, doctor." After paying, Lucius bundled me into the car and took me home. The whole way, I racked my brain trying to figure out how to convince him I wasn't sick, but before I could come up with a plan, he carried me into the bedroom. "Lucius, what are you doing?" I watched him warily. "Helping you get better." As he spoke, Lucius started unbuttoning my clothes. "I'm really not sick, don't you dare. Whether you're sick or not isn't for you to decide. The doctor said I need to soothe you with my pheromones to help you recover." "But no buts. Be good and cooperate with me, He had such a deceptively charming face. One beckon of his finger and I'd go right back to being his lapdog, so I complied again. But after 3 consecutive days of being treated by Lucius, I finally couldn't take it anymore. "Lucius, that's enough. What happened to the old you? Weren't you the one who didn't want me to touch you?" After taking another bite out of me, Lucius mumbled, "It wasn't that I didn't want you to. I was afraid you'd hate me for marking you, but I didn't and you still left." Hearing that, everything clicked into place. So that's what this was all about. He was just being difficult. Lucius had seriously underestimated the lethal power of his own beauty, and he'd also underestimated the sheer audacity of my lust. "So if you were just going to hide, why did you still beat me up?" My face still felt sore just thinking about it. Lucius lowered his eyes and asked, "Didn't you enjoy it?" "I did." Chapter 13. Lucius returned my phone and he even upgraded my tracking app. According to him, this new one was more advanced and powerful. Not only could it provide real-time location, but it could also listen in and even be controlled remotely. I fell into deep thought. So you knew I was monitoring you all along. Yes, and you still went to the club. I wanted to see if you'd get jealous. I was speechless. I wasn't ready to give up, and you deliberately let that Omega get close to you. I knew you were outside. I wanted to see if you'd get angry. Could he not know if I'd get angry? I'd crashed so many parties for his sake. Then why didn't you answer my texts or my calls? Lucius smiled, uttering 4 simple words, playing hard to get. I finally saw him clearly. This guy wasn't some untouchable ice prince. He was a black-hearted lotus, a master manipulator. Chapter 14. After Lucius and I made up, Leo vanished. He claimed it was because he didn't want to be a third wheel. In reality, I knew he was afraid I'd get my revenge. After all, he'd sold me out for 200 million from Lucius, but I never planned on really holding it against him. If it weren't for him, who knows how long Lucius and I would have stayed stuck in our own heads. In a way, he was our matchmaker. After half a month, he finally broke and sent me a message to apologize. Dad, you're not mad anymore, are you? I couldn't help but laugh at the message. That guy was as shameless as ever. Get lost? No, come on, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I'll get on my knees for you, okay? What does you kneeling have to do with me? How does it not? You're my dead. Get lost, stop being a suck-up. Who are you texting? Lucius's voice suddenly came from behind me, making me jump. No one, just an idiot, I said casually, putting my phone aside. Lucius came over and hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. How much of an idiot? The kind of idiot who would sell out his best friend for 200 million. Oh. That is pretty idiotic, Lucius nodded in agreement. By the way, I recently developed a new piece of software. Want to try it? What kind of software? A romance app. A romance app, I was curious. How does it work? Well, it can simulate various romantic scenarios, let you experience different types of relationships, and it can also... Lucius's voice got lower and lower until he was whispering directly in my ear. After he finished, my cheeks couldn't help but burn. Is this app decent? You'll know if it's decent or not once you try it. Lucius took my hand and led me toward the study. Hey, wait, it's the middle of the day. It's fine. I'll draw the curtains. It'll be just like nighttime, but no buts, be good and try it with me. Those eyes of his were full of emotion. The study door closed and soon strange sounds began to emanate from within the room. Chapter 15. 3 months later, I went back to the hospital for a follow-up. The doctor said my condition hadn't fully healed. The root of the problem was that I was still afraid to accept my partner's touch. The past experiences of being beaten, combined with being completely marked by an enigma, made it difficult for me to open up, even after we had been intimate many times. Lucius didn't say much about it. Chapter 16. Perhaps fearing I would run away again, Lucius took a rare break from work to stay home with me. He called it convalescing. I sat on the sofa, watching TV with utter boredom. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lucius sitting at his desk not far away, handling documents. He was wearing a dark gray loungewear set, his hair slightly messy, but it didn't detract from his beauty in the slightest. In fact, it gave him a domestic charm that made him seem more approachable. If only he didn't speak. Wyatt, come here. Lucius's sudden voice broke the silence. I lazily lifted my head and looked at him. What? Come give me a shoulder rub. Don't you have your own hands? My hands have more important things to do right now, Lucius said coolly without looking up. What's more important than your own body? Earning money. To support you. I was speechless again. Fine. Seeing as you're being so honest, I'll begrudgingly give you a massage. I got up, walked behind Lucius, and placed my hands on his shoulders, gently kneading. To be honest, his shoulders were quite broad and solid and felt good to the touch. Wyatt, do you like my body? Lucius asked suddenly. It's all right, I guess. Why? I was taken aback, wondering why he would suddenly ask that. If you like it, you can touch it every day from now on. Really? That good? Was this some kind of trap? You're not planning something, are you? No, I just think that since we're married, we should be honest with each other, including our bodies. Yes. Lucius nodded, his expression serious. Then, can I touch your abs? I asked tentatively. You can, Lucius answered without hesitation, and I swallowed, pushing my luck. Can I kiss your chest? You can. Lucius's voice was slightly strained, but he still agreed. Then, can I mark you? I asked very carefully this time, afraid he would refuse. Lucius fell silent. Just as I thought he was going to say no, he suddenly spoke. We'll see. That depends on your performance. What does he mean, depends on my performance? You're not very stable in many ways right now, so the matter of marking can wait. All right. It seemed that marking Lucius was going to be a long and arduous journey. But that was fine. I had plenty of time and patience. One day I would make Lucius Sterling willingly let me mark him. I secretly made up my mind, and then Lucius pulled me in and kissed me until the world spun. End of story.